because our deepest wounds often reveal our greatest purpose. All right, welcome to the Court of Connection. Today feels really special to me because it's someone I didn't meet in passing. I got to witness her. We met inside of a small group at a thing called Bridge and Extreme, which has been absolutely life-changing. And that space invited honesty, reflection, and really looking at myself. And what stood out to me the most about her is her depth, the way that she holds containment, the way that she speaks, the way that she holds truth and compassion at the same time. And she's got some pretty badass dance moves. So I'm so excited to have you here, Linda.
Well, thank you so much. I love it. Thank you so much for those words. And I feel you in that and just very much appreciate you. And I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm stoked to have you on the show. You have such a similar energy to me, and I immediately gravitated towards you, and I was like, I want to be around her. I love her.
Yeah, totally. Yes, I felt that. Yeah, you just that depth, but also just fun energy, dynamic. That's one of the words that comes to mind when I think of you, Danielle. Just dynamic, many layers, and just really beautiful to have been a witness, of your bridge and your extreme, and just kind of be able to. It's just always so amazing to watch other people experience it because I got to experience it back in April of last year, and having the honor of being a guardian is just it's hard to find words to even describe it. So yeah, you're incredible.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
of
Well,
course.
can you tell us a little bit about, before we jump in, can you tell us a little bit about what your life, how your life has changed since going through Bridge and Extreme?
Oh God, yeah. um, I think that the biggest, I'll use kind of just words that come to mind first, and then fill in the blanks a little bit. Conscious, more embodied, presence, love, and um, a deep, deep appreciation for this thing called life.
Mm,
Yeah, I didn't. So I went into Bridge and because I had seen a podcast with Preston and Alexi, their first Sacred Thomas podcast, and um, I had been following them for years, like since almost it was kind of when they first came on the scene, and just I always resonated with what they're saying, and just kind of followed them, but never really didn't do kind of just any programs, or just kind of just followed them. Just I was like, I enjoy these humans. There's something I want to know these humans. I want to keep in knowing them. And then just the podcast came out, and it had been a little bit since I kind of like saw them on Instagram, or caught kind of caught them in the passing of the interwebs. Um and I just remember that podcast, they were talking about relationship, and they were talking about relationship as they are a couple and married, but also like the evolving relationships that they have had with them within themselves, right? And what I picked up on, not only of what the words they were saying, but the embodiment of living it now. So it's like it was so felt of how they are not only talking the talk, but they walked through the fire. And I was like, oh, okay, I want to know, I want to learn from them. And they mentioned Bridge in it. So I kind of went into Bridge thinking it's going to be this more like relationship thing. And so I mean, I didn't really know, what I knew, what I knew was they spoke a lot about nervous system, right? They spoke a lot about within podcast about, they both had to come to terms with their patterns, their identities, right? They had to come to a really real mirror and look themselves as individuals in that mirror and be like, okay, what's my part, right?
Mhm.
And the unraveling of that, and then as a couple, right? So I knew that, but I really didn't. I mean, they just said it, and I was like, I will learn from these people, so I'm going to sign up. And then, like 30 minutes into bridge, I was like, oh, okay, this is what this is about. And I was like, all right, let's do it. But I also knew within 30 minutes, I was like, oh no, I'm in the right place. Definitely not what I thought I was going to be doing, but I'm in the right space.
Mm.
Because I think it was I don't know if it was 30 minutes or an hour, but all I knew is in that time period, it was the drop in was like, we're all we're all we're all kind of in the same space, so to speak, meaning like none of us are immune to this thing called life, and we're all feeling it. And what I really appreciated about Bridge and Extreme is that both men and women are there.
Mm.
And that was really important to me because, I'm very much in the space of seeking partnership, like of calling in a partner, right? And I know that a gap for me was really understanding men more, like really kind of getting a feel for what it is that they experience in this thing, right, called life. And um what Bridge and Extreme did was just provide me a window into that, and to really look to understand that we're so much similar. We're just much more similar than is we are led to believe on social
Mm.
media and other kind of outlets. So yeah, that yeah, it's hard to put into words what actually happens in those rooms, and it is really much something that you have to experience to
Mhm.
to get. Um, but it's like life shifted completely. My relationships changed because I became more present in myself. I became more clear on who I want, who I am, like who I actually be, not the kind of default mode of how I was living, in terms of, my patterns are very much perfectionism, overachieving, good girl, and they still are there. Like they're not, so I always say I'm a recovering perfectionist,
Mm.
to
Mm.
um but because now I have so many more tools and the understanding that I get to choose. Like I didn't, you for so long you're in that subconscious just go 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 default pattern. And then once you have the opportunity to really sit in a room and be in a room with other individuals who are all working on the same thing, and then we all get to be mirrors of one another, and we all get to experience this, and experience then also our bodies, our nervous systems reacting to it, and flex those muscles and build that, that capacity. I mean, yeah, you don't have a choice. Life is going to change, and
Mm.
you can come along with it right
Yeah.
after something like Extreme, where you could try to go back. But I personally think it's impossible to go back to the way that I was after
Mm.
Bridge and Extreme, because it's just, I feel so much more whole,
Mm.
you know?
Mhm.
What about
Mhm.
you? I mean, like, I know it's been fairly recent, but like,
Mm.
what came up for you since then? What's been really kind of landing?
Yeah. So much of what you said really deeply resonated. It took me back to I'm like, back to my first day, you know, in bridge where I kind of had an idea. I didn't know exactly what went on at bridge, but I had an idea of what I was up against. So that's where it might have been a little different between you and I, but you still don't know until you're sitting in that tension and you're like,
Mhm.
"Oh shit." Like this is about to get real, you know? I mean, they right out of the gate, it's like, all right, da, 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 here's what we're doing. And you're like, fuck,
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
just as a continual build on of like more and more and more capacity.
Yeah.
And I think too, I don't know how somebody goes back to
Yeah.
the life that they lived, without it being just absolutely painful. Because I've been confronted, before we started, I chatted a little bit, but I've been confronted multiple times with real life things and have been given, we always have a choice, right? And the choice is, are you going to revert or are you going to step into something different?
Mm.
And I actually did an episode last night, by myself about this, where it's like, I felt like I had no choice but to step out, and
Yeah.
stretch the capacity and do something different. Um, and I don't know if that's just like my soul drive or like just who I am. I just don't think you end up in a place like Bridge and Extreme without a deep desire to be your best version,
Mhm. Yeah.
And so it has given me a bigger voice. It has given me the ability to my huge thing is also the good girl. That's probably my number one. And I'd say perfectionism and how people view me, right?
Mhm.
And I have gotten a little messy. I've been like, oh, it's okay, you know?
Yeah.
And honestly, there's been a part of me that's like, fuck around and fight, like, get messy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have that desire in me now more than I ever have where I'm like, yeah, view me fucked up. Like, yeah, let me get a little like, I wanna play in the dirt more. Um,
Yeah.
and so I'm really excited to see, like, how that continues to unfold, but so far, it's not life or death. When you think
Yeah.
it's life or death, you think, your nervous system really does believe, like, "Oh god, if I do that, I will die," you know?
Yes. Yes.
And so I think that's the best thing about what Bridge gave me is that it was the edge stretch every time that you think you're gonna die, It's like, "Oh shit, that was the boogeyman in the closet." Like, you're so much more capable than you think. And so, yeah, so conversations, I've had a lot more, honest conversations. I have allowed myself to be more messy. I've really been able to, take more control over my system so that I have more access to choice,
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I'm working on now is really opening the door around play and pleasure because that is a part that has not really been played with.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that. Yep.
yeah.
And I consider myself, so it's really, I similarly also still very much stretching into play and pleasure, right? I definitely was someone, the other thing that really came out of my experience with Bridge was just really understanding how much time and imbalance I was in my masculine, right? So much more of that hyper masculine energy, right? Um, the to-do list, the get it done, the just like the containment, just, having it all together all the time, productivity, doing the damn thing, until, and even before walking into Bridge, I thought I had done, a
Mm,
pretty good amount of work.
same.
And that was one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I got from one of the coaches in the room. And, they said it, and then it was pretty direct, but also, with a lot of love. And
Mhm.
I was like, okay, yeah, I'm completely, not completely, but dance has always been my saving grace in that way. I think dance has always, as long as I've done it, which is now, God, over like almost 20 years at this point, it's been that thing that's allowed me to continually have that connection to my feminine, um, that kind of flow and that kind of just creativity that comes out, that kind of wild feminine energy.
Yes.
Um, and when I had my own studio, it also became a thing that put me in, that I chose to kind of stay in that more masculine side because it now was a business.
Yep.
So it was really interesting to kind of just come to that realization of, okay, I need to lean more into the creative side of me again. like
Mm.
that flow and just being. And yeah, I think that's one of the other biggest shifts since Bridge and Extreme is just my continued allowance for myself that, as I sit here right now, and as you sit here right now, like, that's it. We're enough. Like, we're here. Like, there's nothing to prove,
Right.
right? There's purpose, right? And like for me, I very much believe that dance was and is my purpose,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Dance was one of those things that came into my life because I listened to the whispers, right? So that voice, that the voice that comes from here, that life force, right, versus the one that comes from here. Um, and in the beginning, when I first listened to that voice, and I stepped into my studio and I had my first lesson on the spot, what I knew is like my purpose was to dance. Like I need to learn to dance. This is my thing. This is my outlet. I mean, it cracked me open.
Mm.
And then over time, it evolved into, okay, teaching dance is now something. My purpose is now tied to teaching dance, right? And now, and that led me to building a studio, and then we sold the studio, and then we sold it, and then it's evolved to me. What I very much now kind of focus on with my coaching is helping women find their dance.
Mm.
And
Mm.
it doesn't mean like you have to dance, but like, to your point, listen to those whispers, and let's fuck around and find out a little bit.
Yeah.
And that
Exactly.
doesn't mean, and I think what's really interesting is like you hear something like fuck around and find out, and you feel like it kind of has this like connotation, like it has to be big, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for someone, that just might be a class they've been looking at for like over 2 years that they would know that they want to take, but for some reason it's like, no, I can't do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was it's there for a reason,
Mm.
and it doesn't mean that maybe you're going to be the next artist or the next whatever, but whatever that class is, you're meant to go through it to get to, it's just part of it. It's just part of this thing called life. And dance has been a huge portal for me. And that consistent savior that has led me to reconnecting with my feminine side, to have more flow and that more creative side, and more pleasure and more play. And I
Mm.
continue to lean into that more and more. And, I just got back to like painting again, which has been, so much fun, and writing more,
Mm.
um, and meeting new people, and, putting things on my calendar that I normally wouldn't do. Right. And just for fun. Cause it feels like that's the right, that's what I need to do. I'm going to go do that over there.
I love that.
Yeah.
Ah, you said so much. I'm like, what do I want to tap on here?
Sorry.
No, no, it's beautiful. I love your aliveness around dance, and I'd love to know, yeah, you talk about whisper versus override, right? Which you explained a little bit, and it's essentially what we're talking about. It's like when I'm in nervous system override, I can't hear the whisper, right? And so slowing down enough and regulating enough allows me to hear the whisper. And it's so funny. I posted something so similar today on Instagram and did a little reel. But my question is, when did you find dance in life? Like, and what was your journey like with that? Because I love dance, but I have a lot of insecurity around like full out. I've done a lot of I've been in drag productions, I've done hip hop, I've been on
Oh, that's
stage.
amazing.
Yeah, I've been on stage and done things like that, but there is something there for me, but I tell myself that I'm just I'm it's not easy for me, you know? So it's not easy for me, right?
Mm,
So anyways,
right.
that was a loaded question, but tell me about your experience with dance. What led to
That's so interesting. Before I share mine, I just gonna want to. Can I respond to? Can I just what?
Please.
So my experience of you dancing is just like it's for you. Like it's
Mhm.
just you light up.
Mhm.
You're like it's
Yes.
just you're oozing light.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that I'll just say that. And I enjoyed sharing moments of dance with you when we were
Yes.
together. Um, so I've always loved to dance. When I was little, I played sports. We didn't have the money for me to dance, but I always loved, like I grew up in, I'm an 80s baby. So I grew up in, MTV era, music videos, the grind, TRL, all of it. Right. So that was my jam. I used to sneak watching it because my parents were like, you shouldn't watch that. I'm like, what? I was obsessed with music videos. I loved the
Same.
choreography. I was obsessed. I was obsessed. So I always and I used to watch those PBS specials of ballroom dancing with my mom all the time. And I was just enamored by the entire thing. I was just the women and the gowns and all the different personalities and and the way the men would lead them. I was like, this is amazing. And so never danced when I was a kid. Oh, danced like by myself, like, for fun, but not, any sort of lessons. And then in my mid-20s, I was living in Norwalk, Connecticut. I would always drive by this Fred Astaire dance studio. And every time I would drive by that studio, there was this voice that was like, you should go in there, go in. And I didn't listen to it. I heard it, but I didn't act on it for a very long time. Until one Thanksgiving break, I had extra time from work. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to walk in and see what this is all about. And I walked in and I literally had my first lesson on the spot. And I left that studio feeling like there was a piece of my soul that was filled in a way that I had, like, it was just like, it just filled me in such a special way. And I knew, okay, this is something I have to keep doing. This is meant for me. Right. And, I danced, for, I think it was like almost 9 years. I think I did ball, something like that. And I competed. And as and the more I danced, the more I just wanted to dance. All I knew at the time, Danielle, was like, it just felt so good. I just felt so damn good doing it. That's it. That's all I needed to know. And now having the understanding and the language and kind of like the bigger picture of it all, what I fully recognize is that dance brought me back into my body after years of disassociation from things like disordered eating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It brought me back into like feeling and connecting to all of these sides of me. Right? This fierce tango goddess, this soft waltz queen, like, this fun and, cha-cha, all of it. It just provided me a safe space to be all of it. It was welcome. Right? Yeah. And because we all have it, especially us. I mean, we all have, especially women, like we're so fucking amazing. That we're just so amazing.
Yes.
So, yeah. And from all of that, so much confidence, and I've met new people, and and then with that, I started to create like bead bracelets and do more art and just and enjoy. At dance, I always said, like, dance added color to my life. That's Life in Color was born. My brand Life in Color was born from dance. It started just as an umbrella that I would, run movement class, dance or fitness classes under. And then it has evolved from there as I have evolved. But like dance turned what felt some days as a very black and white world to like full crayon box.
So beautiful. What a beautiful, the whisper really does take us to, it leads us to the doors that open up life, that open up creativity, that open up our soul. It's the door to our soul.
Exactly.
Door to
the
our
whisper
soul.
is your soul.
Yes.
And that's God, or whatever word you want to use.
God. Yep. Oh my gosh. So you mentioned history of an eating disorder. I have a history of that too, and you also talk a lot of your work is around hormonal health. So tell me about your experience and how those two kind of weave together.
Yeah. So I mean, disordered eating, I did not. I have much in my, I would say, at least half of my life, I struggled with my body image. Like I was saying before, I don't know, before we got on, a recovering perfectionist, right? Always, like till the day I die, I will be a recovering perfectionist, just somewhere along that path. And, um, when I was younger, I thought health was related to like a diet, like,
Mhm.
whatever the latest diet was what I needed to do to be healthy.
Yep.
Right? So whatever the fad diet was, I was in it because I wanted to be healthy.
Mhm.
Um, and I remember, comparison at such a young age in terms of like what my body looked like to what other girls' bodies look like. And there was also this layer that I was very attuned to of what kind of attention what girls got from boys. I was just very attuned to it, and I didn't like, it was just like, I didn't, it was like, well, I was like, why am I, and it was funny because like, I think there was moments when I was hearing like, why am I so, like, why am I so attuned to this? I didn't use the word attuned, but I was, but, um, it was something that I was very consciously aware of, that I paid attention to, and what was different about me versus them, and what kind of attention, and what kind of girls boys paid attention to. And I developed this story that in order for me to be loved and seen, and eventually, like, in a relationship,
Mhm.
I needed to look a certain way.
Yeah.
And how I translated that into action was, a lot of dieting,
Mm.
and overworking out. And I just never felt that and all of that led to hormonal imbalances, which, just essentially compound the issue, or compound the challenge of it all, right? Um, so dance, part of what dance also did, because it kind of brought me back home into my body. I wanted my relationship started to shift with food and with fitness, in the realm of, I wanted to be healthier so that I could dance better, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
100%.
And it became less about an image and more about like the feeling of health at that point, right? So in that way, dance also helped me to start thinking differently about what I was doing for so long when it came to like nutrition and things like that. And then I was fortunate enough to attend a conference with Dr. Mark Hyman. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's very big in like the functional health space. And he wrote a book. He just had released a book called Eat Fat, Get Fit. And I was like,
Mm.
what's that about?
Mhm.
And he really uncovered a lot of just things that I thought were true. And he just was like, this is not true. So, for example, I always thought that when you eat fat, fat makes you fat. Not
Right.
true.
Right. Right.
Not true.
Essential for you, especially
Essential.
women.
Essential, right. So,
Yes.
and then, yeah, especially for women, exactly. But I remember attending the conference and him just basically putting the kibosh on so many things I thought were true. And I just walked out and I was like, okay, I'm going to go get that book, and I'm just going to really start to understand what is going on in here, and, what I need to, what I really should be doing for myself. And from that point on, I just wanted to learn more. He said he really spoke a lot to like, the fat free revolution, how basically fat was just, we took out the fat and put the sugar back in. And that just like catapulted not only, myself, but just the rest of this country into just a ton of health related issues. Because ultimately, depending on what kind of carbohydrates you eat, it's the excess carbs that will then get turned into fat if you're not, burning at a certain rate, right? So I was like, this is wild. And then on top of that, you need fat for hormonal balance, because a lot of our hormones actually come from the fat that you eat. It's a precursor to actually creating the certain, certain hormones in our body. So it's just, I now fully understand that food is information.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is culture, and yes, all those things, but at the root, it's like, if I want to be the best me, I need to be putting in the best information possible.
Yeah.
And that is healthy fats, protein, a colorful plate of vegetables and fruits. And yeah, I mean, so that really, and I just think that the more that I started to listen to those voices, and the more I implemented those actions and saw and felt the changes in my body, it was like the evidence was there. I kept building the body of evidence to put to the side those beliefs and, all the shenanigans I used to do, to now say, okay, no, this is, and again, tapping into how I feel,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think that that's a big piece that I also work with clients on is, well, how do you feel, when you're eating whatever, fill in the blanks?
Yeah.
Is that actually working for you?
Yeah.
Because our bodies are always talking to us, always.
Right. Yeah.
And for my many years when I was disordered eating and overworking out, I did not listen to my body,
Mm-hmm.
and that led me into like a hip I have a new hip, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it'll keep talking until it's like, okay,
Yep.
we're gonna put you down.
They're forced you to do something about it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I had such a similar experience in the realm of diet. The problem is that there's so much fucking information that they confuse the shit out of you,
Sure.
right? And I felt so confused. And it was like every single, oh, this is the new thing. Oh shit, I've been doing it wrong. And then I'd adopt all
Exactly.
these new beliefs, and then this is bad. And before you knew it, before I knew it, I was in this place where I had so much fear around
Fear.
food.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, and I was basically eating like, well, at this point, it ended with carnivore. So I had gone through this whole thing. I went through this whole like meal plan thing where I was eating 1,100 calories a day. It was fucking crazy. And I'm feeling like shit. I'm tired. I'm, just gassed all the time. Then it switches to carnivore because I see some shit on carnivore, and then I'm doing that whole deal, and before you know it, like, I am deathly afraid of fucking food whenever food used to be something that I enjoyed, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And so I hit a bottom around that and was really forced to, like, look at everything and get what information is true and real, like what actually makes your body work, and what have I been fed that's not true. And I had to get a nutritionist and work
Yeah.
with a therapist who specialized in eating disorders, and it was like a whole fucking thing. But I remember I went on the intuitive eating journey, and it was
Yeah.
terrifying. It was terrifying because they were basically asking me to challenge everything that I thought I knew.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was like, I remember being on my bedroom floor as I'm going through this process. I'm putting on some weight, which they're like, trust the process, Shred. I'm like, oh, I can't fucking trust the process.
So
But I
true.
did. I was kicking and screaming, but I laugh now, but it was like the most pain I've ever been in
Yeah.
my life. I'm literally on my bedroom floor throwing a tantrum every day,
Mhm.
getting ready, putting clothes on, where I'm just
So
like,
real. It's so real.
oh, I hate this. And that whole journey took me in the same direction where it was like, I want to feel optimal. I want to
Mhm.
be optimal. I want to um do this not for a certain body, but for overall health and to
Yeah.
feel good. And because my story is slightly different, where I was doing hardcore dieting, but I was like bodybuilding for
Oh,
years.
wow. Yeah. That's
And so
another
it was,
layer.
yes. And so it was, I had a whole ego death around that because that was my identity for so long too. And all of that to say that it fucked my hormones up.
Yeah.
My hormones were so fucked up by the end of that.
Yeah.
I ended up completely like my testosterone was completely depleted, progesterone was fucked up. You know, all of that was, and I came to this place where my brain wasn't functioning. Like,
Totally. Yeah. Like brain fog, consistency
yes,
almost. Yeah.
all the time, and I'm counteracting that with like tons of caffeine because I just have to get through the day. And so many of us are just like operating that way, as you know, this is your expertise, but operating that way and just like don't feel like they have a solution.
Yeah. 1,000%. And I think, and the other component too is, the adrenal burnout. And that's
Yeah.
really happened. That's what really happened to me too is, on top of it all, throughout all of this consistent stress around food and how do I look and am I enough? Am I like all the things, right? Is this kind of low or high grade at times, fight, flight space that you're living or freeze that you're living in basically 24/7, which is just
Mm.
a cortisol, just a sea of cortisol at all times, right? And those cortisol is pumped out by your adrenals. And then eventually it's just your adrenals kind of slow down because, you know, um, and cortisol is important. We actually need cortisol, just not 24/7, 7 days a week, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So, yeah, that was and similar to you for different reasons to get there, but of getting there. But yeah, I mean, I remember there was a time during COVID where I just this is when I was still owning the studio and just going, and teaching however many, like 15 to 20 classes a week, choreographing all the things, and I just remember waking up for what felt like 2 months, and I just cried.
Mm. Mm.
Right? And I just cried because I was like, I don't have it. I don't, it was just that this feeling of, is that, why do I have, why, why? Um, and another thing that, another whisper that really helped me too was going to hypnotherapy.
Mm.
That really helped, with that
Wow.
time in my journey of, because it is really a journey, right? I mean, I remember a friend of mine asked me at one point, will I ever get to, are you in a space where you really never think about it ever? And I was like, not ever, because I still
Yeah.
have my moments, but those are far less than, the good moments at this point. So it's like, I don't think, maybe I will. Maybe I will get to a place where I never think about it. I hope so. I hope that women as a whole, we can get to that. I really, that is a hope. That is definitely a dream of mine, where as a collective we have kind of overshadowed all of the negative and the images that are just forced upon us day in and day out, that they're just like overrun by a brilliant cornucopia of all different sizes and all different flavors and all the things, all different women and all that goodness. But sorry, I went off on a little tangent there. But
No,
um,
I get it because I have a lot of,
talking about?
I don't know, but I want to tap on that because I
Yeah,
think
please.
that the the problem is the fucking industry, societal, like the societal views of what attractive is and what beautiful is and all of that is like, I don't know that we'll ever get to escape it fully. And so I do think on some level we'll have to face it here and there, right? And just be like, and come back to our own truth, right? Which is what you're saying. It's like, yeah, the hope is that it'll go away one day. And I do think that it becomes a low buzzing hum, right? That's doesn't really um play a huge factor in your
Right.
life anymore, right?
Yes.
But it's certainly, I know for me, I get this summer rolls around and I'm like, I'm like, there's a part of me that's like, okay, that I have to work through sometimes
Yeah.
where
And
I'm like,
yeah.
wearing less clothes, it's an old behavior and thought of mine that
Yeah.
I hated that back then, you know?
Yeah. And I think, and I don't know if you agree with this, I think the other difference too is the thoughts come up, but I cycle through them that much faster because now I have the tools.
Yes. Yes. 100%.
So many more tools, and that's, kind of a big factor of it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely forgot that what I was talking about before, so I can't go back. I can't go back
Well,
and finish that thought.
I think what we can do is kind of tie in, like you've spoken a little bit about it, but what all does your coaching
Yeah,
encompass?
yeah. Uh, so I consider it holistic health coaching for women, and I work a lot with women kind of in this midlife stage, right? So with this 40 to 45 and, a little bit older, younger, depending on, where you're at. And it really does revolve around, like I was saying before, helping women find their dance. And what that means, though, that looks different for everybody, right? So at the core, though, we start with the foundation. So what does your plate look like? What are your routines? Are they supporting you, right? What's your movement? So what's like those foundational level kind of health? And the reason we start there, even it's your nutrition and your movement are not all your health, but they are a big foundation that you stand on that supports everything else. So it really is that kind of like bottom layer. So that's where I start. And then depending on, we look at your wheel of life, what's feeling really good and what's feeling not so good, right? So, and where there's feeling, not so good, if we're like on a scale, under, let's just say 5 or 5 or under, okay, where do you want to start? Pick one.
Mhm.
And let's just start to dive in on, okay, and what's your most ideal vision of what this would look like, right? So if it's your career, that's really, what is it that you want to be doing? And you close your eyes, you imagine yourself doing what it is like you feel like you're meant to do, or, maybe it's at your job and it's just like, maybe it's some people need to quit or whatever it is, you're imagining your ideal. And then it's okay, what has to change in order to get there?
Yeah.
And then once you open up that conversation, well, now you're opening up to the stories, the patterns, the routines, the rituals. Are you listening to who are you listening to? Who's
Mm.
who's what stories are coming up? Whose story is it? Are you the narrator? Is someone else narrating?
Mm. Mhm.
And from there, we just kind of keep going. And kind of we set goals, of course, but it's so much more fluid than that, right? It's really about, I want to help my clients feel that they've come back home,
Mm.
right?
Beautiful.
That they've come back, they found themselves, and you do that through setting the foundation and then finding your dance, so to
Mhm.
speak.
Yeah. I love that. I think so many people underestimate the little small decisions we make throughout the day, but they're actually the biggest
Biggest.
decision of our life, right? That's something that I've learned in the last, year, and then especially going into Bridge and Extreme. It's like it really is the little micro decisions that actually mean so much more, because then they make the big decisions so much easier to make,
Yep.
so much clearer, right? They don't feel so big
Yep.
because I'm constantly, you know,
Yep.
making those small little things matter. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I have non-negotiables, and that's what I work a lot with clients on too. Like, you need to create some non-negotiables.
mhm,
My morning ritual, non-negotiable. I will not
non
negotiate that with anybody. I could
yes,
maybe shorten it. Like, I'll kind of like abbreviate it in terms of like time. Cause when
mhm,
and granted, I'm not a mother, right? So I'm a single woman. I have no kids. I'm not, so my morning ritual is going to look very different than a client who's got kids, right? But
sure.
so maybe instead of like the hour that I have, it's 20 minutes. Bless you.
Thank you.
It's 20 minutes for you, whatever it might be. But
Yeah.
are we starting the day with some time to come into yourself and to get, to kind of come start the day at home in you, or are you just hitting the ground with the phone in hand and going? Because
Oh,
then we're just starting the day with an uptick in
mhm.
cortisol, and it just doesn't end from there.
Yeah,
So yeah, so really kind of working on non non-negotiables and helping clients, women, to establish that and give them the permission to do so. I think that's
mm,
the other really big piece, right?
absolutely.
Sometimes we just need to hear, you're allowed. You're allowed to
Mhm.
take 20 minutes for yourself in the morning. You're allowed to do that,
Yeah, god damn. I know.
right?
I I know, I wish I could tell you my business name because I'm so excited about it.
Are you birthing something new?
I'm birthing something,
Ooh,
yes.
it's
I'm
exciting.
so excited. Yeah. I'm about to rebrand my podcast to make it match my business name too, which is so much. The Court of Connection was like this, it's great. I rushed I fell into this gift and it was what it was, but the name now just I'll tell you offline. But
Okay.
um I know I'm really, really excited. And we had a goals call yesterday that made me even more excited because I've been playing with like I don't mind doing one-on-one coaching and I definitely will. But I love group coaching. I love group facilitation too. And it was interesting because Laura C, I know you probably know her, but the coach was like, I felt this essence underneath when you were sharing like how dare I, say that I want to lead groups. And I was like, oh my God, that's so interesting because you see people like Alexi and Preston, and you're like, I mean, I couldn't, they've put in years and it's like, yes, you could. Absolutely you could. And what I want to do is not that,
Yeah.
it's something it's smaller, but yeah, I'm really, really excited. I am hoping to have the goal is to have the full launch by June. But I anticipate having more of the unfolding before that. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited
Awesome.
about it. Yes.
I'm feeling the energy. I'm feeling the energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
I'm so excited. Well, tell me something that's bringing joy and excitement into your life currently.
Mm. So much. I've been having I've been taking some extra time on the weekends because I work full time.
Mhm.
Um, and I have been really dropping into such beautiful meditations, which have led to just really incredible writing and creative brainstorms and just like real juiciness of where I'm taking life in color, and then not only like presently, but also 2 5 years down the road, which is getting me all sorts of like juiced up and excited.
Yes.
Um, and I'm what's also just really alive right now is spring. Like
Yeah.
this time of year is the new year for me, and
Yes.
I felt that shift like a couple weeks ago in the sense of, okay, baby, it's time. It's time. It's time. Yeah, I just it's, I don't know how else to explain it other than I'm feeling very much in a space of, yeah, I'm fucking ready. If that
Yes.
makes sense. Like I'm ready.
100%.
Like I'm feeling really ready for this kind of next a level up.
Mhm.
And I'm really pumped about it, and I'm not, I know that it's gonna be hard and all those things, and it's also gonna be beautiful, and it's gonna be messy, and I'm allowing it to be messy, and it's gonna be so, so colorful. Like,
Oh,
I'm very yeah. I mean, life, it is hard, but man, when you really if you can pause and just really, for just one moment, just think about what a miracle. Like, it's a miracle. Like, you are a miracle. I'm a miracle.
yeah, yeah,
The odds of being here are so small.
I know. And being
So
us.
small. And being us.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, you know, I think just being alive right now is turning me on in ways that I've never really kind of felt before. And it's exciting. It's exciting. And it's also a lot. Like, I also will say, I don't know if you relate to this, but it's a lot. Like, it's big.
It's
Like,
a lot.
it's big, and it but I also am so grateful now that I can hold that. And
Mm-hmm.
Bridge and Extreme really helped with that too, right? It's like, I
Yes.
think I'm I don't know if you relate to this, but I believe that we are less afraid of failure and more afraid of actually like what we are capable of. Like,
Oh,
like
100.
right? Like the magnitude of what we are actually capable of humans, I think scares us much more than, well, I'll speak for myself. I'll fail. I mean, I fail every day. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, no big deal. But success, or, you know, what I deem to be success,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
where like you start to really, okay, well, I
Yep.
can have that. Right.
Mhm.
So once you start to get like really in tune with like your desires and your wants, it's like, ooh, now we're bubbling up.
Yes.
And yeah, but I love it.
Mm. Oh,
It's all turning me on right now.
I know. I feel your aliveness and I'm just like feeding off of it. And I feel so similarly. And I just want to say this for anybody listening. Like, if you are afraid to name your desire, there's a problem. We have a problem. Like, I spent a lot of my life so afraid to name the big desires of my heart, you know, and felt like, who am I? And who are you not? You know,
Mm.
we are extensions of source, of God. Like, we did not come down here to play small. And so if you're playing small, like, my invitation is, don't let the rest of your life go by playing a small role in this big, beautiful, juicy life that has like infinite possibility, you know? Ah,
1,000%. 1,000%.
yeah,
And you're not alone in feeling that way.
you're not alone. Spent most of my life that way, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
And
Yep.
back to the permission word, it's like, we need permission. So there's your permission.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. You got permission from little old me. Yeah.
Not little old you.
No, big old
That's
me.
big old radiant,
Big energy
magnificent
me.
Danielle.
Right.
I
That's
love it.
fucking right.
I love it.
So, Linda, where can everybody find you? If people
Yeah.
want to work with you or just want to follow you?
Yep. So I'm about to relaunch my website. So I'm going to give you that, lifeincolor.online. And then you can follow me on Instagram at Linda_lifeincolor. And I would love to connect.
Love. Oh my gosh. I'm so grateful we got to connect today. Beautiful. I feel excited about the rest of the weekend now.
I know.
I'm like, let's go. Spring is here. New Year is here. Frolic in the flowers. So
Yes.
thank you for your time. I love you dearly. And I really hope that I see you in Austin very, very soon, because I would love to take a dance class from you.
Yes. So. All right. Deal. Thank you so much for having me. This is a perfect way to kick off a weekend and to end a Friday.
Yes, girl. All right. Until next time. May the cord that binds us to one another and to source remind you that you are never alone, always guided, and always home.